do a second coat. And the second coat is what gives the rings their nice kind of domed quality. Here you can see I'm putting some popsicle sticks under the jig that holds the rings to try to level them out a little bit more. I could tell it was a little bit angled, so that helps, you know, in spreading the epoxy evenly because it does self-level. And here we are pouring the epoxy onto all of our pendants, and the pendants are much easier. They're not as deep as the rings, so they're generally a one coat deal. I try to, as quickly as possible, get that plastic cover back over my pendants and rings, because nothing is as unsatisfactory as doing all this work and then ending up with pendants and rings with dust in them. You're going to have to deal with bubbles coming up. Bubble air gets trapped behind the artwork, and the best way that I've found to do that is to take a drinking straw, preferably the bendy kind because it gives you a little better angle, and to breathe on the area where the bubbles are. Now, resin manufacturers will not recommend this because there's, you know, it's a safety issue. It's very easy to breathe back in instead of breathing out. So I don't recommend this. I'm just showing you how I do it. Another way to do it is to have a hair dryer held at a distance to blow on it. So I guess what I'm saying is don't try this at home, but it does save a lot of work as far as trying to pop them with a toothpick. That hasn't always worked out well for me. The pendants, for some reason, tend to have bubbles a lot more for me. I don't know why that is, if it's because they're more of a shallow pour, but as soon as I can get those bubbles out, I cover them back up, and then I just periodically over the next hour to 2 hours try to take a look at them, and for as long as the epoxy is still somewhat workable, try to get the bubbles out. But after 2 hours, if you've got a bubble, there's probably not a whole lot you can do. Then I come back and the next day for the rings, and I pour my second amount of epoxy, which causes the dome, and you know, really makes them just really pop. It will distort images the more you dome it, so you need to keep that in mind. If you have something that you don't want to get kind of a distorted look to it, don't dome them too much. And once again, just keep that cover on them as much as possible. Sometimes I'll have a bubble that, you know, breathing or the hairdryer won't pop, and I'll take a little dental tool and actually try to pop it. But that, again, that's just a lot of work, and you know, having the hairdryer blow on it is, again, the safest way and most effective way. You can see me there, I was moving a ring apart. They were getting a little close, and the surface tension that this epoxy has, if you have these things just close enough, they'll just kind of glom together, and it'll cause epoxy to go down the side of your ring or your pendant. Once I'm done, I cover it up and just wait. Once the rings are cured, and for this particular type of epoxy, it takes about 12 hours to reach what they call a soft cure. It's longer than that for the hard cure. You can see here, there's a tiny little bubble in the corner of that ring, so that one's not going to make it to the sales floor, as it were. But for the most part, most of these came out really well. The epoxy is nice and shiny, and the doming on this particular round of rings was exactly the way I like it. So that's it. That's pretty much all there is to it. You know, once these things have had a while to sit, you know, you can do as you will with them. Got some examples here of some bubbling that, you know, it seems like no matter how hard you try, bubbles will come up after you feel like they're not going to come up. And also you get a little bit of the seepage I was talking about, of the resin soaking into the paper. This particular piece has a bubble in the upper right corner, and some people don't have a problem with the bubbles, but anytime I work so long and hard on something, I really like for it to, just be perfect. But that's just me. Occasionally you'll have some things where the epoxy has gone out over the edges. It's kind of a trial and error process, but it's a really, fun thing to do when it turns out right. You just have to take the pieces that didn't work out that well as part of the process. This particular piece shows some seepage up in the corners there, and the corners seem to be really difficult for me as far as getting them sealed well enough. I don't know why, but I tend to have problems, or when I do have problems, they're in the corners. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope that this tutorial has been helpful and that you'll have fun making your resin jewelry.